Let's talk supply chain.
All right, so welcome to the show, Peter. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to be at Manifest. I appreciate you having me on the show. It's buzzing. Lots of people here and a lot of excitement this year.
Yeah, so we had Bill from OneRail on the show. We actually did it at Home Delivery World, which was a lot of fun too. He did a deep dive into who OneRail is, who your ideal client is, what does onboarding look like, real life examples of how you help your customer. So if anybody has not gone and listened or watched that episode, go and check out more about OneRail, because today we're talking about a topic that is really top of mind for a lot of supply chain professionals. It's a topic after your own heart. We're going to learn more about your journey.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Talk to us about your background, what you're doing today. How did you get into this?
Yeah, I started out logistics at C.H. Robinson. Started before logistics and supply chain kind of became a cool new age
Oh, come
thing.
on. It's been cool for a long time.
It has in my mind, just maybe not everybody's.
Okay, in our minds,
yes. So started out my career there, really got I would call it a bachelor in logistics, and then really started my final mile career at Target and helping them build what you see today. The shipped acquisition, starting same day delivery, next day delivery. Moved to a company called Point Pickup, really helped them build the gig economy and compete with the DoorDash, Ubers of the world. And really that's kind of where this transition has taken me to OneRail. We're heading up procurement partnerships and really customer interactions. How can we optimize and work together?
Now, that's a really crazy transition.
It is.
From kind of like the customer side now to the technology side. Talk to me about that transition and what that looked like for you and why you decided to come to the dark side.
Yes. It's, the transition's been great. I think the key word that I would use is perspective. I think perspective of really understanding what do shippers need, and then from a carrier side, this technology component side, how do we help them enable those solutions to really help them mitigate risk, service, get them all the things that they need and the visibility to be robust and fight these challenges that we're seeing in the supply chain today.
Yeah, and you really know what that looks like coming from that side. So I'm sure you've got a lot of great perspectives, and we're going to hear some about that today. Before we get into it, though, just give us high level, what does OneRail do?
OneRail is a final mile platform that's able to connect you as a shipper and the carriers of the world to be able to have one universal platform to help you enable your final mile deliveries, whether that be to a customer's home or to a store or wherever you may need.
Amazing. Now, I want to talk about the evolution of final mile. I believe that you've probably seen it all.
It has been.
I want to go back maybe 5 years. So what were we dealing with 5 years, pre-pandemic?
Yep.
Through the pandemic, obviously there was a surge, everything went upside down. And now we're on the other side of that. So talk to us about that evolution. What have you really seen and noticed happening in the final mile industry?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's been a fun, fast 5 to 10 years. If you look back a little bit, I think the first component has been consumer behavior, right? That kind of drives what happens in the economy, and consumers really started wanting things faster with more visibility, more reliability. And the second component that I think really enabled that was you had the launching of Uber, which really was only 10, 12 years ago.
It
was, which is crazy. And Amazon really launched their same-day delivery to Prime customers only 8 years ago, which is mind-boggling to think about. So really that building of that gig economy really has enabled what we see today.
Yeah.
And really the third part is the lovely COVID that we had. And really what COVID did is it amplified an industry that was already growing and took 3 to 5 years out of that cycle and really amplified it.
Well, and one of the things that you mentioned is visibility. Now, I saw a recent stat that most supply chain teams only have 6% visibility of their supply chains.
Yes.
What would you say to that? Because 94% is a long way to go. I honestly thought we were way more ahead than that.
Yes. It's word is scary. That's the way I would describe it.
I know.
It is. It's without visibility, without that reliability, how are you able to mitigate risk? How are you able to plan? How are you able to make sure that you're
Yep.
delivering to your customers' promises? And they have a range of promises that they're really looking for and wanting. So it's scary. We do have a long ways to go. Final Mile has really helped pushing that from a technology standpoint.
Yeah. Well, and customer demand, like you said, has changed. Customer expectations. What are we looking at for 2024? What should we be keeping an eye on? How are those customer demands really shaping operations? Right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing efficiency is going to be a part of that. Talk us through how people are really thinking about their supply chains based on those new customer demands. And what are those customer demands for 2024?
I think a lot of the same. I think what you're seeing is the customers, retailers, right? They want speed, reliability, visibility, and really being able to control those and being able to offer all those different choices, how you want it, when you want it, and where you want it. And so as retailers and customers start to do that, you have to partner with folks that are able to do that and able to have that flexibility and speed to be able to be nimble, to be able to deliver your customers. And that's really what we're trying to do at OneRail, is be able to offer that to them how they want it and when they want it.
Well, and another stat that I heard while at Manifest as well is that a lot of customers are making, or consumers are making, a decision based on how fast they're going to get delivery. And I think on average, it's like next day. If you've got anything more than next day, people are heading somewhere else.
Yep.
Are you seeing that too? And is that really going to drive some of the strategies that we're looking at for 2024?
It will. The Final Mile is starting to become more mature as we know it today for the Final Mile, and it is making those decisions. Personally, we look at it, and if I see something that's 2 days or longer, I'm like, that's not possible,
We're
right?
so impatient.
We are. We've become impatient. But I think the things that retailers and consumers need to know is that even having that next day or same day, you're able to batch and do some really cool things that drives down costs, and it increases speed and reliability, and consistency, which everybody's really looking for.
Yeah. So talk to me about those options that, clients have, or that consumers are expecting from your kind of clients. What are they looking for? What are the options that your clients have to be able to service those really demanding customer expectations?
Yeah, it's a great question. Depending on the consumer, the product that they're wanting, I think that's one of the things that's really left out in this discussion is when people talk about, Final Mile delivery, they think of that DoorDash order of coffee that may be coming to their house, but it's so much more than that, right? Sofas, big and bulky items are becoming in that category now. It's one of the fastest growing categories, and consumers are wanting that at the same speed and reliability as the hammer that may be delivering to your home from a Lowe's home improvement.
I can't believe that, because I used to be in logistics, right? And so I know that furniture, big and bulky, was always something that we all had trouble with.
It is.
And now they're expecting it next day, and you're kind of like, is this possible?
It is, and it's possible today. There's still lots of challenges with it, right? I mean, you go from a retailer having that space in the backroom store of filling small micro items. That's a lot easier than you're having couches, swings, all of those type of things that take up a lot more room and space. But we're getting there, and they're figuring it out, and we're there to partner with them to get that speed and reliability, whether they want it in an hour or they want it next day.
So talk to me about that partnership and how you come into play. How should people be evaluating a partnership like one with OneRail? What types of things should they be thinking about, questions that they should be asking themselves?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think carrier base, and we call them logistics partners, those are one of the biggest things you need to evaluate. Who are they working with? Why are they working with them? What type of relationships do they have with them?
Right.
At OneRail, our logistics partnerships are as strong as our customer partnerships, and they need to be, because without either or, you really don't have a business. So
that's so true. Yeah.
It's really, really important to be able to marry those two together and actually bring everybody at the same seat at the table and have one universal conversation. And be open and honest with each other to be able to really solve what they're looking for.
Yeah. So let's talk about capacity and risk. I think that is something that has been coming up since 2023.
Yes.
But has merged into 2024.
Yes.
I think we're also talking about supplier diversity. That's part of the conversation, sustainability.
Yep.
There's so many things that we have to consider and people are talking about, things that are top of mind, right?
Yes.
Talk to me about all of that. How does all of that sort of figure into that supply chain strategy, that final mile strategy?
Yeah, it's really interesting because even if you go back a couple years ago, you had the complete opposite, right? The capacity was not there to service everything that was going, and the demand and the growth and the double, triple digits growth in e-commerce. And then over the last year and a half, you've kind of had the complete opposite, where there's maybe a little bit more capacity than there is demand. So, the fortunate part of, once again, partnering with us or similar folks in the industry is we're able to help you ebb and flow, and we're able to help you mitigate that, whether it's you need more demand, less demand, different times of the year. We have different peaks throughout the entire year. It feels like a peak season actually kind of all year long.
All the time.
All the time. All the time. And so it's really being able to have someone that's flexible, reliable, and can help you not only on that gig economy, but on that big and bulky aspect as well.
Yeah, so you really need to have diversification when you're thinking about carriers.
Yes.
Right? To really mitigate that risk. So talk to me a little bit about that, a little bit more. Let's do a deeper dive into sort of the risk that poses and how somebody or a supply chain team, a supply chain professional can really think about moving their supply chains forward in 2024.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at it, it's you never want too many eggs in one basket, right? I don't want it in my personal life. You don't want it in your business as well. And so what we do is that when we're partnering with any of our customers, we're always looking at what is that right mix. We don't want to get ever too dependent on one logistics provider or a partner of ours to say we're too heavy one way, we're too heavy another. And that's, once again, from pricing, from service, from reliability. We always want to make sure they have that nice, healthy, even spread. So we're able to leverage and service them in every way that they want.
And it's kind of a balancing act.
It is.
Right? And you really need to have communication. You have to understand all the capabilities. I feel like sometimes we partner with technology or maybe service providers, but we don't really understand all the capabilities. And then all of a sudden we're going to look for one piece that we could have actually really had a conversation with those we're already working with.
Yes.
Right?
I agree with you. And I think somebody told me one time, seek to understand. And I think it's been one of the most powerful comments is we take a very much approach of 80% technology, 20% human interaction. You're never going to get rid of that human interaction to solve those problems.
Right.
And you really need to understand what is the customer trying to solve for. And that's been, like I said, very fortunate part on my side is being on the flip side, understanding the challenges, the trials and tribulations that they've had, and be able to come back in and talk with our team and create a solution that they can, is powerful and helpful to them.
So talk to us about an example of that. What was a challenge that maybe a customer had that you brought back to the team? How did you solve it? And what was the value to the customer?
Yes. We actually just recently had an example going back to the big and bulky delivery.
Okay.
We have a customer that wants on-demand delivery van and box trucks within an hour delivery. That is very, very challenging. And so the original scope of the project and why we started working with them evolved, and their demands and their customers' demands evolved. And so they approached us and said, we would like to work on a new SLA. Can you do this? So what we did is we came back, created a solution, worked with our partners, and said, whether it's your partners you're working with today or partners of ours, we can use either of those and be very flexible to fulfill your needs. So not easy, not always a lot of sleepless nights, but that's what we're trying to do is ultimately solve their problems.
Sleepless nights.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we're all problem solvers, right?
Yes.
Supply chain professionals are innate problem solvers. This is what we do for a living. It's kind of where we thrive.
It is.
So bring it all back then to OneRail. You gave us a really great example. But if somebody's looking to mitigate risk, they're looking at their final mile strategy for 2024, what advice would you give them?
I think the biggest thing that I would say is partnerships, right? That open, transparent partnerships. When you come in and you partner with OneRail, what we do is we come in and we actually listen. What are you trying to solve for? How do we create a solution? The biggest story I can say is I'm from Rochester, Minnesota, and they had
I thought I saw. I thought I heard a little bit
of Minnesota accents. And we were fortunate to have the Mayo Clinic. And what the Mayo Clinic does so well is when you have a problem, they come in with a hosted team and doctors, and they listen to what you have, and then they come back to their board and they say, how can we best solve and service you? And so we very much take that approach at OneRail to say, we want to hear, we're going to bring in all of our experts from technology, from solutions, from pricing. We want to hear your story. We don't want you to tell us 5,000 times. And then we create a solution and work with you to solve your problems. So that's really what we're looking to do through that trust, honesty, and respect.
I like that. And you kind of grow together, right?
We do.
You are invested in their success. They're invested in your success. And there's really not one problem that you can't solve together. It might not be the way that you envision the solution to be, but isn't that the fun, right? The creativity, the innovation. That's how we're going to move Final Mile forward. And like, if you're thinking about drones, I heard somebody fulfillment to delivery, click to delivery was 15 minutes.
Yes.
That's hard to do with big and bulky.
It is.
But I'm pretty sure it's coming.
It is coming, and we're trying to look forward, you know, how many years, how many months in advance, how many days in advance to say, how can we solve for this and be more nimble and be able to react for our customers.
Amazing. So talk to me about 2024. What's in store for Final Mile in 2024? Or maybe what should the audience be thinking about, right?
Yeah, I think the big thing in 2024 is I believe we're starting to get on the backside of this hump of this depressed demand. And so we're going to see it get back to a normalized state.
Yay! Everybody's
that's my goal.
Cheering.
That's my prediction.
We're going to hold you to it.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope we're here in a year from now and talking about how we were right on that. So, but really being able to partner and pick the right partners. And I think this gig economy world especially is we're fortunate to have really strong relationships with the DoorDash, the Ubers, the Roadies, the Point Pickups of the world, and really banding together with them and in concert or in partnership, with the customers and really saying, how do we solve this together? How do we create these solutions? So I think 2024 is a big partnership, visibility and reliability.
Collaboration is the future of business. Yes. I say that all the time. Everybody's probably tired of me hearing me say that. But what's next for OneRail? What can we expect on the next part of the journey?
We have a lot going on this year, a lot of interesting partnerships, a lot of growth potentials. And so you're going to see a lot of new interesting things from us, such as the truly on-demand delivery box truck and delivery van.
Okay.
Expanding significantly in those areas. Lots more investment in technology, people, and really partnerships that we have.
Well, I can't wait to see that. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, where can they do that? What's your website?
OneRail.com. We're here available. Happy to take your comments, questions anytime. And help in any way we possibly can.
Well, and considering that you helped with Target's Final Mile too, right? Yes. I would want everybody to reach out to you when they have kind of those similar challenges. Absolutely. Because you can empathize with that.
Yes.
Right? And really help them to find a solution. I love that. So looking into 2024, what's one piece of advice? What's one thing that you think the audience should really be focused on other than partnerships? Because I know you mentioned that before, which is great for what you're doing at OneRail, but I'm thinking like the shippers, the supply chain professionals. What's one thing they should focus on?
I think risk mitigation is still a big thing. I think that's what we saw in COVID was a lot of companies, a lot of organizations had too maybe in whether it's inventory, whether it's their customers on that aspect, too much in one bucket. And so I think spreading that out and really getting to that healthy mix so you have a lot of good partners to work with, I think is really what will be a top of mind for most supply chain professionals. Amazing.
Well, you have given us so much great advice. I love to hear about how you are collaborating, you're partnering in 2024, and I can't wait to see what 2025 brings, not only for the industry, Final Mile, yourself, OneRail, because I think really the future is bright and it's a fun, creative, great time to be in supply chain. What do you think?
It is. I think they said many years ago when I got into logistics, you either stay in logistics or you don't.
Or you don't.
And I've stuck with it, and I love it. I love solving the problems. That's really what drives and motivates me, and really working with people to figure out how we can solve and work together. So
amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and look forward to it.
Great.
Thanks.